Hello, welcome everybody to our WAN-IFRA webinar series. My name is Nicole Frankenhauser and I'm the advisory coordinator for WAN-IFRA Global Advisory based in Frankfurt, Germany. We're going to go ahead and get started. Your panelists today include myself and Robb Montgomery. Robb Montgomery is the founder of the Smart Film School and CEO of Visual Editors based in Berlin, Germany. And our webinars are active platforms for audience engagement, so I encourage you to ask questions. And you can find at the bottom right of your control panel a box that is labeled questions. So please just type in your inquiries, and after Robb concludes his presentation, we will launch our Q&A session. And don't miss out on our upcoming WAN-IFRA events. Just wanted to remind everybody that Digital Media Europe 2016 will be taking place next Wednesday in Vienna. And this is the industry's only true European-based event focusing on digital revenue. So we hope to see you all there. And then also check out our WAN-IFRA World News Media Congress. It'll be taking place in Cartagena this year from June 12th through the 14th. In lovely Cartagena, Colombia. And we're going to have lots of energizing sessions with global speakers, and we look forward to seeing you all there. And don't forget, join our discussion on Twitter, #OnlineVideo, and also don't forget, submit your questions via the panel on the right for Robb Montgomery, and we will launch our Q&A session after the presentation. So Robb, without further ado, I'd like to give you your presentation mode and we will get started.
Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am going to be sharing my screen, but I thought I would say, hey, I am here. I wish I could see you. I've got a million songs, a million facts to share, and I don't know how we're going to make watchable video for 20 minutes without a watermelon or 690 rubber bands, but we're going to try, okay? I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to see you at the end. I'll come back on screen, okay? Now, my question is, can you see screen 2? Do you see something that says Prezzo?
We do, Robb.
Most excellent. So if you are on Twitter and you're using the #OnlineVideo, you can also tag me in it, and I can see what's going on. It's Robb with 2 B's. It's Robert Bruce. That's why, the 2 B's. That's one of the biggest questions settled right there. Okay. I wanted to give you just some fast facts here. So much has been happening. I was just in Perugia last week for the International Journalism Festival. So much new stuff is being launched. The F8 Facebook conference is going on. There's new updates out of there. Trying to keep up to speed on it, and so that you can be up to speed on it. There's some clear trends we're seeing with video that is successful in different social media platforms. Sometimes we're seeing that some of the pure play digital media companies are finding a lot of success, hundreds of millions of views. Let's just pick one, BuzzFeed, right? Their majority of their videos, quite a bit more than a majority, are shorter than 60 seconds, and the aspect ratio, square. I'm using filmmaking speak there for a minute because it is important as we move into video to adopt some of the language and potential storytelling behavior for video and cinema language. Especially if you're coming from a legacy media operation where you were just web or you were print for a long time, and you know it is a different language. So anyway, social videos attract 3 times more inbound links than plain text posts. Yes, you know, we saw this trend starting with visual media with photographs over the last few years with social media. We thought, wow, we were driving a lot more traffic if we added visual or if we added a graphic or a visual explainer somehow. It's even more power. It just shows you the power of video has in social streams. And this is what's really exciting. This is primarily for branded content. If you're going to be doing production for a branded or a sponsor, the rules have become relaxed. Facebook now allows that. And even if you're not, if you're doing news and information and programming around information that isn't paid for by a sponsor, I really suggest that everything you put onto social media streams be branded and have the opportunity to take a sponsor or advertiser along for the ride. And video is one of those mediums where that becomes really, really easy. Just think about radio as well. If you want to, in the middle of a show, say, and this is a shout out to our sponsor, blah, 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 it becomes embedded in the report. Unlike text, where it can be separated, scraped, aggregated, and advertising sold against it without you seeing much of a return. So video is so powerful. I mean, it's almost one of those questions, why are we putting anything else out on social streams? Yeah, we don't see a lot of return now. We're seeing that the return back to websites driving traffic, that's down for the top 51 publishers. So, instant articles on Facebook is one of those things that, well, if you want Facebook to sell the advertising, or you can sell advertising against text, go for it. But you definitely can earn more money with video content and different types of original programming. And now we're getting to start to see behind the veil of the curtain a little bit as Facebook introduces more metrics. And we should talk about what metrics really matter. And I would ask my advertisers and sponsors, what metrics really matter to you most? It may not be views, and I mean, just like it wasn't clicks. It was clicks for a long time in the internet, and then it became views. We're starting to see some changes there. And one of the things that is driving those changes are the behaviors of the next media generation. Mobile people, social video. It's as simple as that. But is it? Because now we're talking about video, we have to learn the language. We have to understand the formats are different than even traditional television. Television people, and I advise and consult with a number of broadcasters, including the public broadcaster in Belgium, Channel News Asia in Singapore, CNN worldwide, and Reuters, and my God, it goes on. And everyone's having to come to grips with this. So don't think like if you're just coming from a print background or a web background or a blogging background that, video is just easy for television people. Certain elements of it are, yeah, but others are very disruptive. And when we look at short form video, or what types of video tend to work best on each platform, it really is illustrating the need for getting up to speed and having teams, or a team that innovates continuously in finding the right stories for the right platforms, developing workflows, the engineering. If you need to build a studio, you need to build a studio. If you need to produce vertical visuals, you need a team that can prototype. Yeah, that's one of the things we'll get to at the end. But that's what we're seeing in some of my successful clients like VRT in Brussels. They have a team that does that so that they can respond to some of these questions, and they look at some of these questions. This is a challenge. This is an opportunity. Is video linear or nonlinear? Is it silent? Kinograms is what that's called, by the way. Or do we need to be thinking about 360 with surround sound? Do we need to think about virtual reality video, which is different than 360 video? The aspect ratio, what's going to work best for this story, for this platform? Does it need to be live? Do we need to develop a whole live video team? And also the length, short or long. And if we think about streams, we are probably thinking more about serialized content, snackable content. And ultimately, what screen should we be producing for? Again, go to your audience, figure out what screen they're using, go to your advertisers, figure out what screen they prefer, and design for that. This is just a short list. I've updated it a little bit. But again, as we start to move beyond just saying video, or now we're saying social video or mobile video, we need to be much more specific. Just like, we just can't say, hey, I'm going to put some words on the internet. That's what we're saying when we say we want to put video on the internet. Let's be more specific. Are we talking about first personalities, almost like video columnists having a regular live event? or live programming, a live show, if you will? Are we talking about using much more visual storytelling, turning our data into GIFs that feel interactive, producing graphics animations that can be consumed silently while someone's on the subway? These are the things we really need to experiment with further to figure out what's going to work for our newsroom, for our audience. Because the data points are there. Almost no matter which media outlet you look at, video consumption, and again on Facebook, is huge. The reason I'm talking more about Facebook is because of those huge shifts that we've seen. Mark Zuckerberg saying video is a megatrend, putting resources behind live video, changing the algorithm to promote it. A billion users. They want to be the carriage. They want to be cable or satellite television. They want to be the place where people go to watch and consume video. Quite clearly, that's where all the. It's not a surprise, I don't think. Other people who are stepping up, CNN just announced they're spending $20 million to build teams to program specifically for mobile and social. They're very they're really doubling down or tripling down. I don't know how much $20 million goes in that organization, but that is by no means a small amount of money to anyone. Other players to watch. If you don't already subscribe to Now This News on Facebook and see how they're doing some storytelling, and watch them on some other platforms and see how different it is if you want to get a cue or a clue into what's going on about this idea of we just can't take what we do and put it into a news shoebox. That didn't work for 20 years on the web. It didn't work for your iPad apps or your iPhone apps. It doesn't work, and it's not going to work with video. So listen, it's that tailoring specific content for specific audiences and their behavior. That's where I see the magic intersection, because people are by default watching videos silently, particularly on Facebook. That is that we've seen in the last year driving silent videos. But with live, of course, you're going to see people unmuting video. Yeah. So we're going to see a reversal of that with live events. So just more evidence that video outperforms text posts, particularly on that platform. And then, I think Nicole wanted to know, are you going to talk about 360-degree video? Well, yeah, I personally haven't had much interest in it because I see it as a niche. I mean, of course, I'm observing it. I'm watching the experiments. I have some opinions, and I think that, again, a lot of us coming from other media outlets can kind of just think, oh, well, that's just really simple. You just set up the camera and you go. And sometimes it's that, but actually with 360 video and 360 live video, it's much more about the microphones. Yeah, the audio is actually more important because the camera position is pretty much fixed. And I just find, as a filmmaker, I find that an extreme wide fisheye shot to be fairly boring. And I think what we know about video consumption on mobile is that users revel in details, and in 360 video, it's hard to get that level of detail, that kind of granular visual communication going on. So I think it's something to watch. I don't think it's super mainstream. It may go that way, but definitely live video is. It's right there in front and center, happening right now on Facebook and on Periscope. Why doesn't Google have a live video platform? That seems to be a big question I'm asking myself. From the Reuters Video Labs, they're saying, look, go big on it, do your experiments, and then see how your audience reacts, but make sure they know about it. And then give them a reason to stay and watch, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, from The Guardian, being very platform specific for the kinds of content and the kinds of show programming you do. Now I am talking about television. Of course, I advise television people. I also advise pure plays like Observador in Portugal. And so these are some of the things that I've done in some analysis with them and in some work we're doing in a consulting basis with WAN-IFRA. If you're looking for ingredients for video success, everyone wants to seem to want to have a checklist, some fast things. And we're seeing from a number of sources some things that work. This is one from Mars Studio. That if you're not live, what are some elements that will really grab people? Well, it has to be visually interesting. It has to have some kind of emotional content that people can connect with. And these are things that we know from television. Those things have always worked. So if it's something that people will share, it's got to be interesting. If it enhances their value by sharing it, that's the kind of story we want to do. So that means avoiding boring videos. One way to avoid boring videos is to avoid doing the talk show format, talking heads, or there's a fun and engaging way to do video, and it's very much more like being a personal style, whereas if you were talking into the phone, you can talk into a television camera. That might work, but really the advice is to focus more on imagery and motion. And that short form social videos are in essence snackable, so they can be serialized, like you see with the recipe videos, the people who are having success like Tasty and others doing time-lapsed quick recipes. Those are short and shareable and snackable. And I've done a few as some tests here in the studio. They do take some time to produce. You do have to plan your shots out, I learned. So, but that goes for any kind of explanatory video. Short videos work because maybe we've got 15 seconds in line. Maybe we're just waiting somewhere. We're bored. We're in our phone, and we can be entertained and informed. And make no mistake, if we're going to be doing social video, it does need to be entertaining. That does not mean that you need to do a channel that's just stunts of watermelons and rubber bands and God knows what. But entertainment is a key ingredient. Many videos need to work without sound. We're seeing that in the news category. That's really important to make kinograms a story format. We have to be concerned, especially when we're designing for smaller screens, that the text is legible, yeah, and that our branding is included, or watermarks, yeah. The first frame needs to have a title card, right? So a reason to click. And those first 3 seconds are super important. That also means probably no pre-roll, post-roll. It probably means, I don't know, contextual advertising or embedded advertising, where the screen splits and then boom comes in a sponsor message, boom, or the presenter swipes like it's their hand in front of the thing and it goes to an ad and then it comes back. I think those are the experiments we should be doing. We shouldn't be relying on other people to necessarily find advertising solutions for the types of programming. We need to bake it in our product development and really consider it hard that that's something we might need to own if we want it to work right and we want it to look natural to that audience in a way that doesn't put them off, because pre-roll, post-roll ads, banner ads put them off. And of course, those, you have to find stories that can be replicable, story formats. The first 5 seconds, I say, a lot of people also say the first 3 seconds, because as you're swiping through your Facebook stream, for example, or Twitter, you're going to make a decision, am I going to watch that video or not, based on what you see in the first 3 to 5 seconds. And as we're seeing now, as we move from views, or from clicks to views, to completion rates, the metrics that are probably the most valuable are going to be, the completion rates. That's going to tell an advertiser that that programming hit that audience in a way that they were satisfied. Points within that program. And you can't do any of this stuff if you don't have the right audience data, if you don't have the research that really knows, gives you the feedback and helps you make good guesses about, what time of day should we put this type of social video on what platform. Another good point is that you can employ calls to action at the end of your videos. You can encourage people to share, vote, or ask more information. Those are ways to get in and get some engagement. So don't forget the calls to action. And don't forget any stories that have numbers or geographic information, particularly Americans. Americans are awful at geography. Most people cannot see numbers. When people say them verbally, they just fly over their head as if you're going to understand it. So those are the perfect types of stories to put into visual graphic form and animate them. You're going to need people that do this type of storytelling in your newsroom. Anything that's practical, saves people time, reflects their way they live or want to live. So in addition to recipes, fashion, cosmetic tips, relationship advice, sports, video gaming strategies, gadget tests, these are all just really easy ideas to test for doing how-to videos. And, in my prototype of doing how to make the perfect 3-layer latte, I found that, hey, you don't need to necessarily spend tons of equipment, money on equipment that you need to spend it in the right way, but you can get pretty darn good results, and you can even film in square format, for example, with iPhone running Filmic Pro. I mean, some of these technical solutions don't cost so much. Other things you might have to build. You might have to build a studio that does video switching in a way that allows you to go to Facebook Live from a video feed coming from any reporter's phone that you want to go to. So if you've got breaking news, or you want to go into the business and you want to go over to the business desk and grab that reporter, those technologies exist, and those are a little bit more expensive, but they exist, and you need to know that, because that's where I get off in helping and going in with newsrooms and saying, look, what do you know about your audience? What do you know about video? What can we build together so that you've got a team that's building stuff all the time, yeah? And making those kinds of experiments so that we're making the smart bets, and when we see something take off, we can then scale it up and roll it out in the newsroom. Again, so more about travel deals, health tips, career advice. You can even do this in a series of snaps if you chose that Snapchat was the platform you wanted to go into. You've just got to think in 10-second, segments, how those are strung together to tell a longer narrative rather than writing a 10-inch column on a health beat. Live, of course, it's all going to come back to live, and so how are you right now coming up with a plan for live? Do you have a studio? How are you going to attract viewers? Are you going to use it just for breaking news, just for events? Are you going to do regular programming? That's part of the thing with attracting viewers. If you've got a stunt, like the rubber band stunt, or you're going to be going for some political coverage or another music event or something like that in town, you can let them know like that. But to really keep viewers, you want to be reliable, be live when they expect you to be live. You interact with the audience through the talkback chat, and it's a really good idea to broadcast for at least 5 minutes so that it gives enough time for your followers, to climb aboard. And above all, as you can see, as the pace of change is coming ever faster, it's really up to us, instead of just trying to develop teams that develop one product and then go out and just do that all the time, that we have a team that is always experimenting and always learning what works with your audience. And it won't be surprised by mutations of new technological iterations or even leaps of new technology once it comes. You'll be prepared. So think about videos that have a countdown or a suspense element. That was the real key why the watermelon and the rubber bands work, is because people just wanted to wait until they knew what was going to happen, but still they waited, right? tutorials, anytime you can teach. And I like this from VRT, one of my clients. Show anything that is beautiful, entertaining, serious, laughable, amazing, or geeky. And I think Beslag is a Flemish word. So that's where they came up with that acronym. But it's really helpful, beautiful, entertaining, serious, laughable, amazing, or geeky. Amazing is like anything from the Red Bull, you know, people, you know, paragliding without parachutes, you know, past mountains and stuff like that. So you need, obviously, an innovation team in your newsroom. That's my strongest recommendation. And then when you look at how, if we're going to be a video-centric media company, because that's probably what's going to keep us in business and that's what our audience expects, how do we need to look at the structure of our personnel? I kind of have this pyramid graphic that I like to say, look, as the top managers, we need to be looking as like not everyone can be a VJ. And we really can't support VJs if we don't have specialists. And we really can't do any of that stuff unless everyone on staff has some general knowledge about video and social video. So VJs, of course, are the people that you send to crisis, breaking news. They're the ones who naturally run to the smoke rather than away from it. Like sane people, they can produce, they can write. They're like the James Bonds of mobile video. So you don't give them the easy stuff. You only give them the hard stuff, or the stuff that the stories that they want, that they're bringing to the table too. And then you have specialist teams that are working on, okay, we've got a Facebook Live team, we've got a Snapchat team, and so on. We've got specialized story forums, regular programming, and that's what they do. They have specialized equipment, specialized training, specialized workflows that are developed from the innovation team. And the generals, that's everyone else. Every field reporter, actually everyone on staff needs to know the basics of video, you know, holding it horizontally, how to do manual focus, some of the fundamentals, so that you can get more and more quality footage from scenes of breaking news particularly, or from anywhere that anything is interesting or beautiful or amazing, or you got it, right? So that's what I think. I'm just going to go back and just say, look, if nothing else, just remember Robb's pyramid, okay? There is a strategy. There are ways to solve these problems. There are ways to look and reorganize your teams around these ideas so that you can be successful. This is how you can contact me. It's Robb, again, with 2 B's, at smartfilmschool.com. So at this point, I think I will say stop sharing my screen and go back to the webcam. Let's see if I can do that.
All right, Robb, we did. Oh, I think we're gonna see you right. Yeah, right about now. Yeah.
Okay, I see chat. Oh, now there's another box there for questions. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the stimulating presentation. I think we had a few questions come in. When you're referring to VJ, that's video journalists, correct, on your pyramid?
That's right.
Okay, excellent.
That's right.
And then when you were showing the how-to video segment with the latte, what video editing app were you using?
This was one called Clips. And so that was, again, one of my goals in my prototype and experiment was like, is it possible to do everything on the phone? So what do I need? Well, I need kind of a low-cost studio light. I need a table. I need a tripod. I need a way to put this on a tripod, blah, blah, blah. And then I found an app, you know, which I use a lot and teach a lot, called Filmic Pro, which lets you get manual control. So now my phone is more of a professional video camera. And wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to take that clip out and then bring it to the desktop and convert the video and blah, 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 save a lot of steps. So I use an app called Clips Video Editor. Now, the bad news is it doesn't exist. It was so good that Google bought it, and now it's no longer in the Apple Store. It was for the last 3 months, but they bought it for the engineering talents because they want them to work on Google products. So if you've got Clips Video Editor, that's what I used. But I could have done the same thing in iMovie or Video Shop or, you know, pretty much anything. The key was, how do I improvise a studio that can give good results? How do I make a shot list so that I'm anticipating all the shots I need in a recipe video? Because while they look easy, what you find very quickly when you start filming it that it's just not a speeded up video, that every shot is shot independently. You have to think about camera moves in and off of the stage to make them watchable. And then are you going to be overlaying text on them? And I was able to do all of that within the phone. So that's what I'm saying. You can get started with, making these things without spending a lot of time or money.
Excellent. Yeah, so when you were bringing up the BuzzFeed watermelon experiment video, that's obviously one of the big viral videos literally of this week. And so, for those of our WAN-IFRA members, our publishers that are small regional organizations, of course not with that audience power, but what are some of your tips for them to produce good content on video with limited resources?
Well, yeah, I think it is going more to the phone, the video camera that everyone has. How can we, really amplify the video that reporters can do from the field? How can we make a low-cost live studio? Is your audience? It's going to depend. Small isn't enough of a metric for me. Small publisher. I need to know in which kind of environment. So I would need to know, what is your audience interested? Are they interested in what kinds of topics? Then what type of platforms are they on? How long do they spend on those platforms? And we design programming for them. But if you're just guessing, it's going to be hard to find something you might not guess right.
Yeah, and then when we were talking earlier about those different types of videos that publishers should concentrate on, you mentioned this personalities format, and then later you mentioned that publishers should avoid talk show formats. So what are your recommendations for a publisher to introduce and to own these kind of personalities without being too formulaic? I mean, what's an organic approach to creating a really strong personality?
Right. So I guess my idea on that, no problem. My thinking on that is that rather than think that you're producing television, right? More about it's like you're a video columnist, and rather than and so you are going to be maybe much more. Well, maybe the video is vertical, or maybe the presentation is vertical, and the top half of what you see is the presenter, and the bottom half are other things like tips, text. It could be animatics, could be graphics, could be other views. So I think there's just quite a lot of potential there to do something very non-television, because if television worked, folks, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Yeah. But those young people are rejecting that format. They're rejecting a lot of the formulas. It doesn't mean they reject everything about. Of course, they don't reject everything about television production. But some of the rigid formulas that television has relied on for 6 or 7 decades, those are being shaken up.
Right. We have an audience question.
Much more about columnist.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have an audience question. Actually, that was something I was going to ask as well. When you were talking earlier about the kinograms, these silent videos that are popping up on Facebook more and more, you said that we really have to get down to the nitty-gritty with text, and that content is everything, obviously, because we don't have the sound function. Just with talking about the content, what is your best recommendation for text overlay with this video app function? Like, how can we get the text to really speak to the people without hearing anything? What is your favorite?
Yeah, and so this is one of those, if you've never done film, if you've never done documentary, if you've never done television production, this is one of those struggles. If you come from a tech-centric background, in that is to really be successful with those, you have to learn picture language. You have to learn that you have to build your visual sequence first, and then you write to pictures. And that comes completely backwards, and it's completely maybe non-intuitive until you do it, because most people think, oh, well, I write a script and then they make my movie. No, those are plays. When you watch most Hollywood movies, those are plays. Most of what is being shown on screen is dialogue between characters. It's not what we're talking about here. So the key is to learn how to write with pictures first. and then how do you bring text in? Because there's many different ways to do text overlays, to do interstitial title cards, animation sequences. Those all become aesthetic choices, you know. But the real key is how can I, in an economy of time, take a person from here to here with pictures first, and then the text supports the visual narrative. It's the easiest and right way to do this. So that's one big tip for you.
Okay, thank you. And now we just got a whole string of new questions, so let's get right into them.
They're probably insulted that I look. I have a journalism degree. I worked in newspapers. I can write my way out of a paper bag. But I'm telling you, on my journey, this was one of those big aha, you know, moments. You know, writing the pictures.
Okay. When we're talking about content distribution, one of our audience members asked, how important is it for publishers to be on Snapchat?
It's important to the extent that your audience is on Snapchat. See, this is why it's an easy thing to circle back to, because, okay, well, I'm in Singapore next week. Well, when I was there last time doing some sessions on social media, this was one of those things that gets thrown back. Well, you know, Snapchat's just not really taking off here. And I said, well, what is? Well, Facebook. Okay, so let's not consider Snapchat. Let's monitor it. Let's understand that that's a very different video experience, and that the Discover channel is even a different type of story experience. You need to get up to speed on those things, but maybe that's not what you're going to focus on right now because your audience is not there. So don't do it. If your audience is, you need to really have a plan. Another thing, and this is a really nuanced thing, this is where I keep finding holes in what actually publishers know about their audience. I was showing Periscope, and, you know, showing a bunch of reporters, and we were experimenting with it. Well, no one uses, you know, Twitter's not really big here in Asia. I'm like, okay, but this is ecosystem, not organization. Periscope is its own product. It's independent of Twitter. It's owned by them. They have their own team, and the users actually have their own different followings. And I showed them an example of someone who was in Singapore who was live broadcasting and opened up their Twitter feed, and they had 2,777 followers, right? And then I showed them on Periscope, they have like 33,000 followers. You know, two different things. So we have to be really careful about how we measure, what we're measuring, and understand these nuances. Just because Periscope is a Twitter product doesn't mean that all correlations are the same, right? So that's where I would like to actually challenge the publishers, like, what can you tell me about your audience? You know, where are the challenges? Where are the opportunities? That's what we can build products for, and that's what we can build experiences for. Yeah.
Excellent. And then we were talking earlier about that every publisher needs their own live video team, and one of our audience members asks, how do you make a low-cost live studio?
Look, it's not hard. It depends on how much behind-the-scenes switching you're going to do, which can be really important if you're going to have like a regular live at 5 kind of show. You know, at 5 minutes after every hour, you're going to go live with 5 top headlines, and you want to be able to cut to different shots where you're going to have to find a way to switch behind the scenes. So you might need a TriCaster, yeah. But not so much. You're going to need a space where you can have lights, and you're going to have to buy a nice microphone or two. But I don't think you necessarily have to do much more to get started. You know, I've done some experiments around here. I've got some gear back here where I've put an iPad up, and I've put that in the frame, so that was the lower half of the frame, and I was above. You know, I don't think it costs that much to get started doing some prototyping. And that's really, guys, that's how this is going to be done. You can either buy the technology from somebody else, or you can build it yourself. And it's a lot cheaper, and it's a lot smarter to build it yourself.
Okay. And then this is the question on every publisher's mind, Rob. Monetizing video. So one of our audience members asked, what's the right or best way for publishers to monetize videos? Do we or don't we do pre and post rolls?
Yeah, I think pre and post rolls are going the way of the dodo bird very quickly, especially on on social platforms. You don't see it. It's going to have to be, like I said, that's where the experimentation has to happen. So as we're developing new formats, don't think it's the ad guy's job only to consider that, because and this is really, I know, coming from a pure newsroom perspective, it's hard. But if we really want to be, if we really say that's the goal and that's what we want to focus on, then we need to do that in concert with the kind of storytelling we're going to do. Because I think the ad formats might change. It might be a 2-second ad, it might be an interstitial, it might be, splitting the frame. I think that there are exciting possibilities actually, but I would say we're going to have to develop them, and the people that do develop them are going to be the ones that benefit.
Okay. And then going back to audience consumption, we were talking earlier about, what social media platform is popular in which country. And one of our audience members has the question that is really relevant to the audience that the publisher is producing video content for. She asked, what effect does the cost of data have on video use and choices in different countries? Because obviously, when you have a mobile plan, you don't want video to just eat up your data. So what are your recommendations for different geographic regions on how to do
right.
video?
Again, I'm not an audience guy. I work with them. That's their field, and that's what they're tasked with doing, is understanding those behavior patterns. What I do is more as a creative director and visual technologist, is work with teams so that we get that information and we ask for specific, and we say that's what we need to go find, because if we don't understand that,
Rob?
so we do, so critical to getting the answers to these questions in the time that it will make a difference for you.
Okay, thank you. I think you cut out a little bit there. Yeah, I think you cut out a little bit there, but hopefully we got the gist of it. connection.
Welcome to live video, right?
Right, exactly.
Hey, it's video. Technical things happen, so you just get used to it. It's never happy, but look, you're going to have a chance to go live again 5 minutes from now, so make it better. And have a team that's my big tip for you.
Okay, great. And then audience, we might have time for 1 or 2 more questions, so go ahead and submit those. But Rob, I actually had a question for you. Last year, it was famously reported that one of the Le Mans journalists was on site and filming the Paris attacks as they were going on, and many people were streaming video live to Periscope. And, what our publishers or one of her members are probably wondering is, how can newsrooms train all reporters to be live video journalists? And what are tips on sometimes reporting that breaking news when you're just like in the moment and you have your phone? And how is it best to just get
Sure.
all the action in?
So one of the things is, of course, train everyone. One easy way to do that, especially this is probably for larger publishers, there's a phone into a potential live camera to be able to send photos and video with talkback directly into your news servers, into your online and offline servers. So I think the key is to having a video operation, a strong one in place that can receive lives, encrypted direct to your newsroom, so that not necessarily they go out on Periscope, for example.
Okay.
So that if you want the exclusivity, you've got it, and you can then take those clips that are coming in, you can do talk back to those people's phones. I mean, this solution, we can talk about it if anyone wants any consulting on this. I do work with the company in Stockholm. I got a demo on this from the CEO when I was there a couple months ago. They're going to be showing it at NAB, I think, in a couple weeks, and it's one of those answers, you know. And now, for people who aren't, yeah, you have to know that with live streaming, you can film horizontal. It's a better experience, so film horizontal.
Mhm.
You know, use a microphone. If you don't, you can always make a microphone by cupping your hand here, you see, so that the sound can bounce in. That works pretty darn effectively. If you've got
Right.
your white earbuds, use your white earbuds when you know you're at the scene of the earthquake or whatever. That's what you see BBC reporters doing, who are caught off guard. They didn't have their Sennheiser microphone, which of course is much better, but all they got are
Exactly.
their earbuds.
Sometimes you're
Yeah,
just
and
caught
that's what you
without the
do.
professional
So
equipment.
it's just some of that basic training that everyone needs. I mean, I put a lot of that into my online courses so that, you know, news organizations can, you know, have everyone do that, because it's hard to and expensive to have, you know, in-person training for some of that basic stuff. But that basic stuff is really important, so that you've got that base of the pyramid. You've got the
Mhm.
generalists, you know, with an understanding of what to do in a live situation and how to get good video on your phone. Um, you know, and then there's solutions like Iris, which makes it really easy then to just send it secretly to your newsroom. Yeah, and then your newsroom can use it for its live broadcast. You see how it's about how the pieces fit together. Yeah, that's why everyone's answer is going to be a little more bespoke, a little more tailored.
Well, great. I think we're approaching the end of our webinar. I just want to thank the audience for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me or Rob directly. We'd be happy to answer any questions after the webinar on the content seen today. And then I will also be sending to all the webinar attendees and registrants a takeaways email with a live or with the recording of the live webinar in an email, so you'll get that from me today. And Rob, we'd just like to extend a sincere thank you for giving us your time today and teaching us the right ingredients for online video. And again, everyone, Rob is available for training and consulting for your newsroom, so please just get in touch with us, and hopefully we can work with you in the future on some bespoke strategies for online video.
Perfect. I'm going to turn my
Thanks,
camera off. We'll
Rob.
spend some time with you.
Okay, thanks so much, Rob. Thanks,
Cheers.
audience. See you next time for our WAN-IFRA webinar series.